So the minute that you have something that you put a label on, you have the thing and you have the label that you're putting on it. That's two. But oneness doesn't allow for that. That's why Lao Tzu says the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. Defining God is impossible because as soon as you put a label on it, you lose it. So we originated in something called oneness that we call God, or we call spirit, or we call divine mind, or we call the Tao, or we call organizing intelligence, or we call it Louise. You can call it anything that you want, but it's not what you call it. And yet we know that everything that originates, that everything that shows up in here, if we take the subatomic particle that began you, so because we think, well, we came from our parents, and there's this tiny little drop of human protoplasm that began you, right? We all know that. I mean, your parents, I mean, it's hard to imagine that, but they did. And, you know, they're combined. I remember telling my daughter Stephanie, who was 13, you know, when we were talking about this, and you know, because my wife just kept getting pregnant, and she was 11, 12, 13, and, you know, she said, how do you think it feels? When I told her the last time about Sage in 1989, she said, how do you think it feels to be the only kid in junior high school who have parents who like to do it? I said, I know this is going to depress you, honey, but I said, Grandma and Grandpa do it. She said, that's just too disgusting. I can't even think of it. So there's this tiny little drop of protoplasm that is, you could put 1 million of them on the head, 1 billion, 1 trillion of them on the head of a pin. And everything that you needed for this physical journey was handled in that moment, in that tiny little particle, that when you went from spirit to form, when you went from non-being to being, and you did. Everything does. Everything does. And as it says in the Tao again, you're not doing anything. You're just being done. You must know that when you look at your body. You must just watch it, don't you? You observe it and you know it. You try to stop it, you can get some implants if you want, and you can get things lifted over here, and you can, but by and large, you're just watching it, aren't you? And it's going to do exactly what it was programmed to do from the moment that you went from non-being to being in that tiny little subatomic particle, and you just get to watch it. You just observe it, you just notice it, and there's nothing for you to do. We came from a place of oneness, and oneness is so difficult to grasp. The only way I can get a hold of it is to think of myself as being one with God before I got here, very much like I look at myself and my finger, or my leg, or my arm. I know my finger has its own personality, and I know that my leg is unique, and it does this, but I don't go around saying, my finger is separate from who I am. There is two, but there's really only one. So that everything that is a part of who I am, I don't explain, well, that's my leg doing what it does, and that's my kidneys, and it does that. And it's like, this is me. And I can shift that over to this concept of from, where I came from, and see myself like that, as a piece of God that broke away, and that I must be like what I came from. And it's one of the most difficult things for us to grasp. But everything is like what it came from. In the film, I take an apple pie, and I'm explaining to the people about this apple pie. I say, what is this piece of pie like? And they say, well, it's apple pie. Well, how do you know that? Because it came from an apple pie. Because if it came from an apple pie, it's not going to be cherry, is it? It's going to be like what it came from. If we take a vial of blood out of your arm, and it says your cholesterol level is 220, we can pretty much assume that it's not just in that little vial. that the rest of your blood in your body has a cholesterol level of 220, because it must be like what it came from. And when we extend that metaphor to ourselves, you say, I must be like what I came from. So I came from this place of oneness, but I entered something called two-ness. And the other thing that from looks like is